And with any further ado, present Adrian Nader.
So, yeah, putting my slides. Yeah. All right. So it's actually a bit tangential to wine because I'm going to talk about both Mingw64, which wine works with. Well, it works both ways. And a project of mine which is winbuilds.org, which shows you make packages, binary packages for Windows. So you can build from Linux, run on Windows, build on Windows 2, at some point the other way around, if possible. So yeah. First, let's cover a third of the talk, Mingw64, what it is, what it wants to do in the future, an overview of winbuilds, and then some more technical details, and a few and some advice. Yeah, right. And so, Mingw64 was started several years ago by a German company who had some program which required like more than 2 gigabytes of memory, quite a lot more. And because they had huge images, so they did changes to Mingw, to .org, to GCC, to Linux, to everything they required. And the really nice thing they did is donate the code to Kai Teeth. And Kai then went on and upstreamed it. He did all the paperwork with the FSF. Well, maybe he had it before, I don't know. And he started working on GCC. He continued working for several years. So I think it's been like at least 6-7 years maybe. And most of the changes have been upstream, but the changes to Mingw.org, there's been some politics involved, and Mingw.org saying no, we are already doing our 64-bit stuff, or we'll be doing in the future. I won't get into the details, it's always nice. And that gave the Mingw64 project, which is now hosted on SourceForge. Yeah. So what's similar to Mingw.org is headers. Information comes from MSDN. That's a public source of information, no issue. But one big philosophical difference is headers can also be built through reverse engineering. Mingw.org does not want anything with that. They say they want to stay clear of any legal issue, so they stay with MSDN. Well, but MSDN isn't exhaustive, it's not even correct sometimes, and you, especially when you go in the lower layers, you're going to have issues with it. So that's why you can't reunite headers, for example, of both projects. Well, not that easily. Another big difference if you try to build something with Mingw.org, you're saying that usually you couldn't just take the FSF GCC, everything from the website. You had to add some patches. And Mingw64, there's no patches required. It can happen, but usually you're fine without anything else. And one thing I've really enjoyed with Mingw64 is that it's much more welcoming, and that makes it nice to work with. Also, one goal is to reach the ABI of MSDC for C++, because right now you can't mix objects from the two. But that's the goal, it's getting closer, and it's why every 1 or 2 GCC version you have to rebuild all your C++ stuff, because the ABI has changed, and Kai is the culprit here. but I don't think he's here for you to throw stones at him.
He was here. By
He told me so. I haven't seen him yet. Maybe. He's probably hiding. Here he saw that.
He's already gone.
Oh crap.
Oh yeah, he left at 4.
I see. So yeah, what's in the Mingw 64 code? So we have headers, of course, which go up to Windows 8, I think now. You get additional things quite regularly, unlike Mingw.org, Mingw.org, sorry, which was stuck last time I looked. It had like 5, 6, 7 years of lag. That's where also several projects collaborate, do things together, because the DirectX headers come from Wine, and the DDK ones come from ReactOS. And also, so that for headers, there's also some code, which is mostly when the C1 time of Microsoft doesn't handle C99, C11, well, not all of it, and Mingw 64 adds code to fill in the gaps. And the nice thing is, for libm, actually Mingw 64's code is faster than Microsoft's. Yeah, and if you want to build with Mingw 64, you have quite several possibilities. You can cross-compile from Linux. You can build from any of the POSIX-like environments which run on Windows, so Cygwin, NSys, or NSys2, which, NSys is a fork from Cygwin from like 10 or 15 years ago. NSys2 is a fork from Cygwin, which does pretty much the same, which has pretty much the same difference, but the code from Cygwin is only from last year. And then there's Uwin, which is made by DevCorn, and I know no one who uses it, maybe besides him, and I'm really curious to know how it performs and when it should be used instead of Cygwin, for instance, but I have no info on that.
Yeah. Yeah, for what I know, they have licensing differences. I think Uwin might be something that you will be able to use in a course.
I say, Cygwin's DLL is GPL, Uwin not, but I don't know if you have differences in like performance or. Okay, thanks.
So they have licensing.
Yeah, thanks. I've asked Dave too, but haven't gotten an answer yet. Well, last point, you can also do native compilation, and the only thing to know is that you will be without any shell, without any POSIX shell, so that's mostly when you run from an IDE. One thing that is actually, you have running many of these, almost as many Linux distributions, people who make binaries, of toolchains and possibly libraries and other binaries, other executables. So OpenSUSE and Fedora, they have teams which handle that. They've been using Mingw 64 for quite some time, and if you're running on one of these distributions, just go with them. They are like at least 2,000 packages, probably more. It's fairly exhaustive, well tested, and I think in both cases you have either Novel or Red Hat which at least use the packages. So you know there's really users who care about quality. MXA is built from source, and they have quite a lot of packages, but sometimes a bit weird with some weird patches, and they do static linking of LGPL libraries, which means you're going to have troubles with you might have trouble with license, because you won't be able to easily swap the GPL binary for another one. Okay, I'm going to make it shorter. With Mingw, he had some nice builds. Well, he does many builds, and he had some nice ones with Clang, and he's been working on LLVM more recently. Seguin, there's a cross compiler in it, which is from Jonathan Young, who is a co-member of w64. Well, yeah. And WinBuild, which is mine, which is obviously awesome. Alright.
About this, are you sure there's no Debian or Ubuntu?
Oh, yeah, right. There are Debian, there are Arch, not Arch Linux directly, but RUR. There are going to be several ones, but the big difference is that OpenCV and Fedora, they have many libraries. If you want libvorbis, if you want lib I don't know what, they're going to ship it. Debian, they have the compilers, they have the toolchain. There are a few other ones, but not that many. Yeah. Some of them have been building libraries more recently, but it's still fairly small. Yeah. Alright, so another view of WinBuild. Oh, yeah. The goal, really, the first goal was to. I noticed that everyone was doing their own builds, especially a few years ago. Everyone would build GCC, would build libraries. It took ages. It wasn't easy, and it's really frustrating. So I thought maybe with a more systematic approach, I could make it less painful. And I also wanted to make it to have better free software on Windows. If people spend less time building, they can spend more time coding. That could give nice results. And also, the last goal is that if you can bring more up-to-date and faster libraries, everything to Windows, then we can probably get companies which do private software, which do proprietary software, to use them instead of other proprietary components, and then they can be supported on Linux, either because they are going to switch to Linux, or Wine more easily. So, yeah, as for current status, you need GNU Linux to build. You can run it on Linux 2. If you, well, obviously it's cross-compilation, so you can run the compiler on Linux. For the binaries, actually you can install everything on XP to 2012. I've tested like 4 versions of them. The only thing is that XP has its own issues at the OS level, not mine, and I can't do anything to fix them or maybe work around them, so avoid it. I've been meaning to. Right now there are only 60 packages. It's not that much, but it actually covers quite a lot of things you might want to do. There won't be. I don't think there will be more than 1,000 packages ever. Like, you don't need a package for modprobe or kmod on Windows. It makes no sense. So that really means we have less packages. Adding packages is actually quite easy. I'll get to that a bit later. But what took time was really to work on the architecture, to make it nice and usable everywhere, to make installers for Windows. And that was awful. But version 1.3 was released a few weeks ago, and it works. It should be easy to set up, even if some people seem to have issues with it, but we'll see soon. And version 1.4, which should have many more packages at least. I hope at least 20, well, 10 to 20 more in 2 or 3 months. Alright. As for what's available in more details, you have C, C++, with C11 and C++11 support. There's Lua 2. I haven't tried Ada, Fortran, Perl, or Ruby, mostly because I need a project to build against them and to use. I have no idea what people could want, which is
not
written.
use Perl's own test suite.
Yeah. But I'm a bit limited because since I do cross compilation, I like to. Test suits are a bit more difficult to run, and they also. I don't know the Perl one, but I know the GCC one on Windows. I think it would take like 24 hours to run on some very powerful hardware. It's very difficult to run in practice. Yeah, and because you can't run several tasks at the same time, because otherwise the output is going to be mixed. You won't see anything. That's on Windows, yeah. Yeah, so Objective-C, I had them, but same, I build nothing which is Objective-C. I know someone who used next step stuff on Windows, and the compiler works, but I haven't tried since then. Oh yeah, if you care about Java or Objective-C GC support, well, you better do something now, because I can't build GCC 64-bit cannot be built. The copy of libgc, which is in GCC, is from 2007, so it doesn't have 64-bit support, and no one is taking care of it. So it's going to, honestly, it's probably going to die very soon. Yeah, I've also been working on an OCaml cross compiler. For Python, I think they still require MSVC to build or to. Well, at some point they don't handle Mingw, but they're working on it. So that should come. That could come by the end of the year, actually. Okay. So status again, you can run GTK apps, past that only 2.x for now, and you only have 32-bit support. GTK 2 64-bit seem to simply not work. You have enlightenment stuff, several other libraries. Qt is actually missing because Qt is the weird beast, and I haven't been able to. Well, I should try again with Qt 5, but with 4 something it was not very nice. Alright. So small roadmap. As I said, more packages. I seriously need to work on the test suite. When I have to try something on, I need to reboot on Windows, and even if I need to do something by hand with even as few as 60 packages, it's going to take a good chunk of the day. When I want to make a release, it's going to take the weekend. That's something which I need to improve on. Well, if someone is interested in that, get in touch. I see what I can do too on my side. Well, I haven't mentioned, but I really want to get security fixes on Windows, of libraries on Windows in an efficient manner. I'm not still sure how to do it efficiently, to which people. Longer term, more packages, and I'd like to have to include the package manager inside installers directly. The idea is that you get the package manager, you append some payload, and well, maybe not at the end, but you insert some payload, and you get an exe which you can run, which you will install the package manager, possibly update older version of some packages. That's the plan. Not yet done, and I'll be working on that with one Enlightenment people. You know, E17, so maybe in 10 years. One on Windows, I'd really like to get that. I don't know if it's going to be used much, but fun. Cross-compiler from Linux to Windows. No, sorry, there was the other one. From Windows to Linux, I actually know companies which... Yeah, I actually know companies which do that because they have been migrating the product to Windows, but people are still working on Windows. They've been used to Windows as an environment for years, or they have some IT people who don't want to migrate away from Windows, but they're like doing Linux ARM, they use it. Alright, if you want to start using it, I hope the documentation is pretty much exhaustive. At least for users, simple users, it should be good. If you want to package, you're supposed to do it from Linux. It's easier, but you can also do it from Windows if you like pain. Prefer 1.4 dev 1, which has some much nicer changes. But if you only want to run it on Windows, 1.3, which is the current version advertised on the website, you should not have any issue with it. Well, I hope so. As I mentioned, if you want to help on something, testing is really needed. Especially testing on various versions of Windows. That's something I can do, but it's probably painful. For the previous release, I've been testing installers for, I think I spent 1 month testing and fixing installers from XP to 2012. That's something I really like to share the pain with others. Also if you have some code, please build it. I'll show you why at the end of the talk. There are many small issues which take nothing to fix. Usually, currently it seems almost everything builds cleanly, or mostly cleanly. That's actually pretty nice. It wasn't the case like 3, 4, 5 years ago. That's one about linking to our websites. It's because there are quite a lot of websites which, when you have new projects or projects which change web homepage, links are not updated, and you get really odd results in search engines. So just a quick check. You don't have to, I'm not telling you to remove Mingw.org and to never mention it again, just to add Mingw64 next to it, for instance. Right. So, users. I've seen from 1,000 to 2,000 installations during January. From the 1-day stats I've collected for February, it might be doubled for February. The only thing is that, I'll show you how you install on Windows quickly. So you just fire your website, you go there, download, it's hidden in the doc, so you are forced to read the doc. You save, it's a zip file, and then you simply extract it. Simple. And then you have several binaries which are going to be combined, and you have an install script for MC4 Cygwin if you wanted it. You have an install script for when you are outside of them, you want only Windows stuff. You are outside of any POSIX layer. That's why it's a batch file. Hey. And you have a script which you use from M6 or Cygwin, which is going to switch which environment you use. So 32-bit or 64 bits, because this does not have multi-leaf toolchains because of name clashes. And yeah, so you just run that, and then it installs automatically. And see something. Thing is that from downloading the zip file to, it's very fast because it was actually on a gigabit pipe. From downloading the zip file to running the script, it seems like as many as 50% of people give up. I have no idea why. I mean, alright, it's a script, it's not very pretty, but come on, 50% of people.
Maybe you should call it setup code actually.
I should try that, yeah.
Well, when I take it, I just unzip it and take the stuff from it. Then you need to run it.
I actually... Ah yeah, that was just running a few things. But yeah, that's why I actually put the links inside the doc. And you're supposed to read it, but yeah, it's possible, and that's also why I want to put a GUI to make it. Even though I'm not sure it's a good idea to support people who will never read any documentation.
And there are people who will never use a movie.
That too. Yeah. Well, I'm going to finish the video so directly. It was just running stuff. The thing is that if you look here in the background, you actually see many files. That's all the packages. That's what you get pretty much automatically. So it has a non-very nice command window, but apart from that, there's almost nothing involved to use it. That's elementary stuff. There's been some people who have been doing nice job to make it. Well, it's not perfect. Like it's trying to say things in home, like on Linux. But apart from that, it's almost working. Alright. So yeah, that's it for this video. Yeah. Now, the stats come from Apache logs. That I hadn't planned to have any stats at first, and I've only been able to guess that from various bits here and there. It seems 3% of people are running from Linux, and 5% from Cygwin. That's really a guess for Cygwin, but I think it should be fair. I'm fairly confident in it. Almost no one gives feedback, of course. I have no idea if for most people it works or if they don't like it. So yeah, again, I really like feedback on that. I have had a few people who've been happy with it though, so I'm fairly confident. Yeah, Western version of Windows for most people, and 64-bit for actually. It's like almost everyone who visits from Windows, who visits the website from Windows, uses a 64-bit OS. I was expecting some people, but not 90% or more.
It's quite common. People might run Windows on their browser, but then copy the zip to somewhere else.
You're going to need an internet connection, at least. But yeah, they could do that too. I want to try some more stuff that it's only guess from Apache logs. So I see that many user agents. Actually, one which has been pretty interesting is wget, because that's the one I shipped in the installer. And I've seen like at some point pop up. I think in January I've seen 90,000 downloads from wget, something like that, from wget on Windows, and 5,000 wget for Linux. That's how I guess how many installations there are. Well, how they are balanced. And for the number of installations, yeah, I just check which files have been downloaded and how many times. And yeah, as I said, I want to put more stats in it. I don't need much. I only need to know 32 bits, 64 bits, Windows, Linux, something else, and which version. And yeah, MC Sigwin or outside of any. Yeah, currently I'm really blind on that. Oh yeah, right. So a few technical details. I've written a package manager from scratch. It's a very simple one. It was only meant to work like that. You install, you tar xvf, you store the list. When you want to install, you remove the files which are in the list. You take care not to remove files from the package, but that's it. Not exactly, but it's fully 90% of the work. And there's some weird things to handle themlinks. No, I hate themlinks on Windows. I hate junctions. I even hate hard links. I had to go into React2S code to understand how to use junctions on Windows. Very happy about that. Took me like 3 days to do one junction. Yeah, the package manager is actually OCaml code because, well, I know OCaml. It wasn't a bad tool for the job, and it compares to native code, and it works. You have a nice app. Well, they have ported most functions. You can write the same code on Linux and Windows. You're not going to have to do if-def one or the other. I think I watched it on Linux, made it work on Linux, switched to Windows, took like, I don't know, 5-6 hours to get everything working. Yeah, these scripts, they are from Slackware. Actually, the reason is that, I'm going to try to find that again. That's expected. It's only an empty desktop. So yeah, just an example. That's for libarchive or bsdtar. The only changes actually are to, you can't see anything actually. You set a few paths, like you want to install in lib or lib64. I've kept all that. Changes like 10 lines, which are copy paste. That's the same, that's simply extracting sources, getting into the temp directory. You do some you sanitize permissions and you want configure. Things I've added, no crap, that variable is not defined this way. Anyway, you change host, you set it, and then you replace elf when looking for executables to strip with p. Yeah, crap. And instead of calling Slackware's make pkg, which takes a folder and makes an archive out of it, you call make ypkg, which is my tool. Same here, copy paste. Porting is really simple. It's like 30 seconds to 1 minute of work for porting the script itself. Yeah. Okay. Of course, that only works when the source can be ported. No. Anyway. And if your software has been packaged, or something you are interested in, you can just grab the logs, check what is in it. You should see everything. Configure options. So if you want one which is on there, shout. If you see a warning which looks dubious, saying, well, you can fix it too. And that's the scary thing. There is one less package to build for 64 bits, and you have you have 6,000 warnings for 62 bits, and 9,000 for 64. So that means that I think we're pretty lucky that most of the software actually won. There are probably bugs everywhere. For the difference, I don't know, maybe because you have different sizes for some types. I don't know, but
forms, 99% of us.
yeah, quite a lot of it. Actually, there's also x264, which adds -fpic to every C file it builds, and GCC is going to say, hey, that's useless for each and every file. That's probably only 1 or 200 warnings. Yeah, and I cannot subscribe to every bug tracker and start saying, hey, you need to fix that line with that thing. I like that people do it the other way around. I'd like to. That means get the sources of win builds and look for that string. It will mean there is a small patch right after that. So you look for it. If you like libhog, you see there's a patch to it, there's a change to it. Read it and maybe apply it. Or if it's wrong, let me know. Yeah. As for a few common issues, there are in the build system. When there's no post-compilation, I cannot put that in the packages. I'm trying to have reproducible builds, well, not fully reproducible builds, but at least something which is not just pure log, that it works once. And that means I'm doing it from Linux. Everything is supposed to be post-compiled because on Windows you are unlikely to be able to keep the same environment for more than a few, I don't know, Windows changes. You're not going to have 5 years of support for your Windows distribution. But yeah. Also, if you see something which uses libpng-config or anything similar, please convince the author to not use them anymore, to use pkg-config, because the other one does not handle post-compilation. So you have one on the system, it's in /user/bin, and it's going to say use the Linux one. It's going to fail, but the last one I need to fix, I simply set libpng cflags equal and call pkg-config. That's it. It's a bit annoying to have to do that nowadays. There were a few missing .exe extensions, well, not many. Yeah, that's the kind of thing which is very easy to fix. libsup was failing because it was using strchr. It hadn't included string.h, and it was set to fail on warnings. Well, it would have failed anyway, but it was really a one-line change which applies to everything. If that version of libsup had been tried to build for Windows, it would have been fixed at once. Another issue, yeah, OpenSSL. Yeah, it's the last one.
Time is tight. Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
We can flex a little bit.
I think it's yeah, it should be OpenSSL does a lot of weird things, including having a sending from SSL.sudo to the same one but uppercase. I don't think anyone calls that main page, but anyway. Last one, which many people do wrong is that DLL files usually go to bind and not libd, so next to .exe files. Alright, yeah, so questions on the website if you want to look for things, or open a bug there. Please do.
Yeah, so you focus very much on getting all sorts of libraries compiled under it, but what I'm still interested in is the actual compiler and linker part solved. Is there still stuff to be solved there?
Yeah, it's definitely solid. It's working well. The main changes that are left are probably things like C++ ABI, PDB support, a few things like that. But otherwise, it works well.
Yeah, so I tried to use it around November last year, for example, and the linker has an error handling strategy in 2004, which wasn't particularly user-friendly for problems.
Haven't had issue with that.
I recorded them here.
Actually, and there are actually two reasons I use Slackware. First one, I use a Slackware build script and versions. I like Slackware because it's not too old and not too new either. So I'm going to lag a bit in versions, but at the same time it should be fairly stable. There's also one thing with binutils is that you have two versions. You have the FSS one and one which is meant for Linux, which has 5 number strings. And that one you can't not use it for Windows.
Sorry, so I'm trying to use Linux host Windows target, obviously.
Yeah, but I meant there are two binutils, and the FSS one and the one used by most Linux distributions for their own purpose, to target Linux. And at some point I made the mistake of using it. That will not work, because they have Linux specific patches which are not yet upstream. You can recognize them because they are not like binutils 1.2.3, but 1.2.3.5 point something and something. This one you cannot. Yeah.
Is there an option to treat include files, open the case insensitive and cross-compile it from Linux to Windows? No.
I don't think so. I haven't seen that.
So I file a feature request. So I was
Um,
trying to compile some Windows code and it included the include first the wrong case and it failed.
Possibly if you build with while using NTFS 3G on Linux, you have a mount option which says
Sure. But this was on X4.
yeah,
So
you
no
need to be
case
bound to that one.
sensitivity.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
When you run this Windows installer, how much it downloads a lot of libraries? How big is the whole bunch of it?
Focus on a bit. The libraries you will be downloading like 50 to 60 megabytes. Because it's actually LZMA2 compression. It compresses nicely, and I think it expands to 2050 something. Maybe a bit more, I need to check. Downloading is really small, but it can expand to 3 times more quite easily. And 50 to 60 is for 32 bits, and you also get 50 to 60 for 64 bits, so twice.